A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we shall understand about slow learners and how to help them. But before that, I would like you to understand that if a child who is constantly failing in subjects or repeating the class or is weak in all the subjects or is a dropout, then do we consider that child as a slow learner? No, we don't do that. Why? Because young learners differ from each other physically, socially, emotionally, and also academically. The reason may be due to different rates of learning, different styles of learning, the different maturational level, and also the motivational level. So, it is a great challenge for the parents and the teachers to train or handle the children who are called as slow learners. Why? Because they don't fall into the category of special education. They are not doing well in the school and weak in the subjects, and they lag behind in the areas of social, emotional, and psychological well being. But they do not have any evidence of having any medical problem. Now, when we see the definition of slow learners, it says that slow learners are students who learn slowly than their peers, yet they do not have a disability requiring special education. This clearly states that slow learners do not come under the population of disability. The prevalence rate of slow learners is approximately 14.1% of population based on the estimate normal distribution. That means there are 14.1 percentage of children who are slow learners. They are in the schools, they are in the classrooms. We have to identify them. Now let us see how to identify a slow learners. There are certain characteristic features which are very prominent, which distinguishes them from other learners. This can be the slow learners, the IQ ranges are between 71 to 89. That is, when the IQ range is 70 and below, so we categorize them under the intellectual disability. Whereas when the IQ range is more than 90, then they come under the average intelligence. But these children, they have the IQ range between 71 and 89, which is usually called as borderline intelligence and also referred to as slow learners. They score low in the achievement test. They do not master the academic skills. They have difficulty in multi-step directions. They have short attention span, low concentration skills. They are working very slowly. They have poor memory and judgment. They have poor imagination and creative thinking. They lack in the eye hand coordination. Their organizational skills, reasoning, and time management skills are also very, very poor. They don't take decisions properly, and they do not generalize one situation to another situation. The learning is not transferred from one situation to another situation. They have immature interpersonal relationship, which leads to immature social behaviors, social participation, social interaction, and also the communication skills, both oral and written, are very, very poor. They have a poor self image, and also they don't show interest in learning, and they do not have any long term goals. But I have seen that they function at an ability 2 years below their own grade level. So these are the certain identification characteristic features of slow learners, which have to be screened out to help them. But there are certain qualities of slow learners. There are good qualities like physical appearance is just the same like others. They do well outside the classroom. They are good in sports, extracurricular activities. They are outgoing. They work well with hands on practice, with manipulative activities. They can be educated in the regular school with other learners, and they can master skills slowly, but methodologically they can master skills. So we have to look into the qualities of slow learners also and help them according to the need based. Next is the diagnostic part. How are we going to diagnose a slow learner? Usually, we use intelligence tests, adaptive functioning tests, and certain social emotional behavioral checklists to identify or diagnose a slow learner. The intelligence tests are mostly performance and verbal tests, such as Wechsler's Intelligence Scale for Children, 4th edition, Seguin Form Board, Binet Kamat test, and the adaptive functioning tests are adaptive behavior scales, Wineline adaptive behavior scales, diagnostic adaptive behavior scales, and certain for social development we use Wineline social maturity scale and certain behavioral checklists to find out the maladaptive behaviors of slow learners. So diagnosis becomes the crux of identifying children and diagnosing them as slow learners. Most of the times, there is a chaos and confusion when we are diagnosing the slow learners and learning disability. Mostly, these terminologies are interchanged. Sometimes slow learners are referred to as learning disabled and learning disabled as slow learners. So, there are certain factors which can delineate and also help in demarcating the slow learners from learning disability. So in the developmental aspect, the slow learners have mild developmental delay, whereas learning disability have average development. As I already told you, the IQ ranges between 71 to 89 for slow learners, whereas for learning disability, the IQ ranges more than 90. The attention is very poor with the slow learners, whereas the learning disabled children are hyperactive in nature. There is a short span of memory for slow learners, whereas the learning disabled have good memory. When we look into the perceptual factor, the slow learners do not have any perceptual problems, whereas definitely there are perceptual processing problems seen with the learning disabled children. That is why they have problems in reading, writing, and arithmetic. That is why they are called as dyslexic, dysgraphic, and dyscalculia. The slow learners are disinterested in learning, whereas the learning disability children are weak in the specific areas. When we plot a graph of the various subjects and the percentages, then we see peaks and valleys in the learning disability children because some areas are very strong and some areas are weak. Whereas when we plot a graph with the slow learners, with the various subjects and the percentages, it is usually a straight line graph depicting that all the subjects are very poor. The slow learners have very slow speed in functioning, whereas the learning disability have average functioning. They lack the imagination and creativity, slow learners, whereas the creativity and imagination is very good with the learning disabled, and they are using the qualities of right brain. The slow learners require remedial teaching, whereas the learning disabled, they require special educational services.